class. So today we're learning how to multiply integers. Now, in the past, you should have learned how to multiply whole numbers, right? So you should know how to multiply by the time you're watching this video. If you don't, there is a video in background knowledge in Schoology that you can look at that provides you the traditional method and the lattice method for learning how to multiply. All right, now let's move forward. When multiplying integers, it's actually not too many steps. The main thing we need to know, it is not the same as adding, though. This is where kids or students get really messed up. So we went over it kind of in our preview, and what we learned is that we have multiplication rules, and I'm going to write them first. And there were two. The first one was if the integers have the same sign, then the product, remember product means answer to a multiplication problem, is positive. Now this really differs from from addition, because in addition, if they were both negative, your sum was negative, right? If they were both positive, your sum was positive. In this case, it doesn't matter. If they're both negative, it's positive. If they're both positive, it's positive. So it's always going to be positive if the signs are the same. All right, so what's our second rule? Our second rule we learned was if the integers have negative signs, not negative signs, excuse me, have the opposite signs, then the product is negative. Sorry, a little too sloppy. Opposite signs negative, same sign positive. So again, in addition, it was whichever had the bigger absolute value, that was the sign of your sum. That is not the case here. If they are opposite, so if one's negative and one's positive, the product is negative. So a big takeaway here is that absolute value does not determine sign of product. Now, for the sum, it did, right? When we were talking about adding integers, absolute value was super handy for us. That is not the same for multiplying. It's not the same. So that's why it's really important we learn these rules. Okay, so now that we have the rules, let's start practicing. Let's first list our steps. So how do we solve a multiplication problem? Well, step one, you literally multiply the integers as if they were positive. You don't worry about the signs at first. You see two numbers, you multiply them as if they're positive. Once you get your product, step two is determine sign of product based on multiplication rules. So again, if they started with the same sign, the product's positive. If they started with opposite signs, the product's negative. And that's it. That truly is all we're doing. So let's do an example problem real quick. Example 1. We'll start off with something pretty easy. Say you have this. -5 times -6. Okay, so what I do is I multiply 5 times 6 as if they're positive. Well, 5 pairs of 6 or 6 pairs of 5 get me 30. Last thing I do is it positive 30 or negative 30? Well, I look. They were both negative, so instantly I see they're the same sign. If they're the same sign, that means my answer's positive 30. I leave it as positive 30. And that's it. Let's go to example 2. Example 2, negative 7 times 4. And notice throughout the video, sometimes I use a dot, sometimes I use an X for multiplication, sometimes I use parentheses. Remember, those all mean multiplication, right? Okay, so it's negative 7 times 4. I'm going to do it as 7 times 4 because, again, my first step is to multiply if they're positive. 4 pairs of 7 or 7 pairs of 4 get me 28. Now what I do is I look at my original signs. I see the 7's negative and the 4 is positive. Just like addition, we could also bring in the colors. Oh, I see that these are opposite colors, right? Up here, I see that they're the same color because they're both negative. Well, if they're opposite colors, that means I have a negative answer. So the answer is negative 28. All right. We're going to come back and practice this a lot more in class now. Thank you.